Hello, I'm Rob Jones, and joining me is John Taylor, Chief Operating Officer of Sitech Global Positioning Systems. John is one of our shortlisted candidates for the Construction Technology Leader category of the 2021 Construction Technology Awards. The awards celebrate new approaches and best-in-class use of technology within the built environment. In this category, we've shortlisted the leaders who have successfully led the planning, adoption, or use of digital technology in the built environment. The winner will be announced on the 2nd of June during the Construction Technology Festival in Dubai. John, with your career as it has flown over the years, was technology always a focus for you, or is this something that grew over time?
Thank you, Rob, and I want to say this is a pleasure and an honor to be a part of this group. It really is. So, but frankly, during my entire career, technology has always been a very valuable part of what we do. So I started out as a land surveyor, and again, this is in 1981. So the technology available at the time we considered advanced, but it really is today. Obviously there's been a massive amount of changes, but yes, it's always been important to us.
When you're working on these projects and you're pushing out, because I think it's worth saying you're a distributor of technologies. Do you find that where you're trying to introduce new products or new processes into a project, into a company, you've got a vast supply chain there. Do you find you get a lot of pushback, or is it easy or easier now to start getting people on that journey?
When we first started Sitech in 2012, I made a lot of mistakes in trying to introduce technology and hitting the wrong hot buttons of the people. So we were getting a lot of pushback on the technology, especially again in 2012. I would introduce myself and the technology they never heard of it before, machine control or BIM or 3D design work and that type of thing. So there was massive pushback, but as we've gone along, there's less and less pushback and more interest in actually what we are doing now in 2021 compared to just 10 years ago.
Do you find though? Do you find it depends where it is in that value chain? I mean, do you find, for instance, that clients or main contractors are much more eager to embrace than maybe further down the supply chain, or is it that doesn't matter?
Really, what we found is the most important for us to do is actually make sure we get a buy-in from the team on the ground. So at the very bottom, even the operators, are far away from the GM as you can get, are important to win over with this technology. So obviously we do have to get the GM's buy-in because he's the one writing the check usually for these types of projects. But if we don't consider the entire team that'll be involved, then it's doomed for failure.
And do you find, as you look at the way technologies have started to evolve, or digital technologies have started to evolve in construction, are there particular technologies now that you're looking at that you can see becoming more and more prevalent in future?
Well, the primary technology that we started using is machine control, and that's automating machines like dozers and graders and excavators. The adoption rate in our area is generally less than 1% for the technology, whereas in Europe or the US, it's 50% adoption on these types of equipment. But when I started in 2012, there was hardly anybody using it on land, only international contractors. And we now have grown to the point and introduced it enough into the local contractors where I see it actually starting to be more and more accepted with the local contractors and becoming normal with some of them, which was great to see.
I think it's worth explaining actually. Machine control, what is machine control when it's being put into, because we hear about automation. Is this different to automation for the heavy equipment?
Not really. For example, what we do for a typical grader, would be to install GPS antennas on the blade, and then a small computer inside the cab. And then with the GPS technology, and then we reference to a reference station, we're actually able to completely control that grader for the slope and the height of the blade. All the operator has to do now is just simply guide the machine, and the technology makes sure that he's doing a good job. I was actually at a Trimble event just a couple years ago where they took it the next step, and they were controlling a dozer and a roller remotely. And they didn't even need to be near the site. They could be 1,000 miles away. And that bulldozer was completely autonomous. So this is coming. We want to get everybody in this region first, making sure that they understand the machine control side, but the autonomous will definitely be a part of it and coming strong.
And do you see it something that is far out in terms of widespread use? Is it something that we're still a few years away from in this region, in the Middle East, the GCC? For
sure in this region, because the pressure from the economics pressure from our labor costs here is far less than in the US or Europe or Australia. So obviously that's where it'll start and come. That's usually where the trend's starting to begin on the automation. So yeah, it's going to be a ways away from this. I mean, I'm still looking forward to a 25% adoption of machine control technology, let alone autonomous type technology.
In terms of projects that you've been involved in, is there a particular project that you're very proud of where construction technology was pivotal?
The very first project that I was involved with, and that was in 2012, and it was in Oman. I'm proud of that one because I didn't have a team built yet, so I had to do it all. And I had to scratch my head and lean back on my surveying skills that had been a few years from actual practical use. And I had to do the complete surveying. I had to do help the installation of the machine. And this project was reconditioning a road for PDO out in the middle of nowhere, Haima, out in that range. And then we reconditioned that road with a WorkGen product that actually put a new layer of not asphalt, but it was a reconditioned road base. So I was very proud of that one, but I'm also proud of another one we did on the orbital highway project in Qatar, to where we automated a huge machine called a Vermeer 1255 terrain leveler. This machine is massive. It has a big drum that rotates and cuts the rock, solid rock. We were able to get within 20 millimeters accuracy at a 2% slope on that. And I still look at that machine with a lot of pride that we developed the system. It wasn't Trimble or our main suppliers. We actually developed that system for that, and it's worked really well.
Okay. What skills do you think then have got you to this point in your career?
I'm educated as a mechanical engineer at Purdue University. So I had a good understanding of engineering aspect. But then I took a turn in my career and I went and started land surveying. And land surveying gave me the basis of understanding the coordinate technology that's necessary for 3D. 3D is all about just pinpointing exactly within that diagram where that position is. And that was extremely helpful in understanding how to apply that onto the ground, because I started the old-fashioned way and then understood how to do it with the machinery.
And flipping that, what do you think people who work with you are learning from you?
Frankly, the most important aspect, I believe, of what I've imparted on the people here is more along the lines of business practices than technology. I mean, I try to make sure all my people have complete training, obviously, and get them very knowledgeable in the products that we're doing and the technology but I came with a philosophy that we're not here to sell just a product. We're here to help these companies innovate and adopt 3D technology into their workplace. So that to me is most important part. I mean, and we get complimented quite often on our customer service level, and I think that's what it takes to handhold a local company here that has never used technology to be able to be successful with it. And again, that's another thing that I'm very proud of, that we've been able to do that.
So as we start to see more digitalization happening within construction, and I mean, you must have seen that really start to take off over the last few years. What kind of competitive advantage is it giving companies over those who maybe don't adopt?
It's really interesting too. A lot of times these companies don't want to brag to the other companies about their use of technology, because it has saved a lot of time, money, and other advantages over using the older ways. For example, we know we can save at least 50% of the diesel on a project with a dozer, the grader of an excavator. So obviously, not only is that saving a lot of money, it's reducing a lot of CO2 in the air. So it makes them a lot greener. So, but if I can basically take a grader and triple its production from what it's doing out there, it's pretty obvious to that company then that this is a huge advantage for them to use this technology.
Do you know, it's interesting that I've spoken to quite a few people about how they're introducing digital technologies and why they're introducing them. And one of the things I've noticed is quite often it's not the main point of the technology, but one of the things that comes up quite often is the sustainability side, in that suddenly it's reducing waste. It means they can monitor better how much, how long an engine is running that's idling, or you can just manage the whole process better so that you're not running engines longer. Or people are starting to look at how can they introduce solar instead of diesel for running the cabins. It's interesting how much now there's an advantage that's coming, which is also sustainability.
Exactly, and we see it more and more coming all the time with this. And frankly, when we put our systems on a machine, we can integrate with their existing monitoring solutions. So we know exactly how much that machine is idle during the day, sitting there not producing, how many cubic meters of earth it's moved that day, how many square meters, the operator downtimes, and even some of the codes within the machine itself that indicates problems with that. And it's all available sitting on your mobile phone now to be able to monitor that machine and to make sure that it's being used optimally.
Another area I think probably you've seen a lot of change in is just the sheer attitude towards the use of digital technologies in construction. So how much have attitudes shifted?
It's been a massive shift. Again, when I first started in 2012, introduced myself, nobody knew what I was talking about. Then with the advent, they would go to BAMA, they would go to World Con Expo and things like that. They'd start to see it. So they started to be more and more open to it. But the only way I actually was successful was in real demonstrations to people. So where I would go out and I would put a piece of our equipment on one of their machines for a week. And then we would measure the production of that machine versus what it used to do before, or another machine on the job site without the technology. And when you lay real world results that shows very significant improvements, it changes attitude immediately. I mean, they're going, wow, okay. And frankly, a lot of times they won't believe me at first, but we continue to show them and demonstrate it. So frankly, the attitudes now, people are almost always aware of what we're doing and a lot more open to accepting it. And especially if you can demonstrate results, that'll save them money.
John, thank you for your time and good luck with your shortlist for the Construction Technology Leader Award.